this time talking about a leadership intelligence. And today we aim to break that down, what that really means, and basically how we can all become better leaders. Of course, my guest in the studio with me today is business coach and motivational speaker, Maresa. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure to have you. When you were on the last time, we spoke, at great length about leadership and about, so many, important things that can be observed in the working environment, whether you're just an employee or, a leader. But today we focus into the concept of leadership intelligence for sustainability. Perhaps we can start by breaking this down. What really is leadership intelligence?
Thanks so much. Leadership intelligence is the heart and core for every leader. Whether you're running a business, you've got an SME, or you're running one of the largest companies, leadership intelligence are three things. Okay, the first thing is business intelligence. You got to know how to run the business. Like, you've got to know how the organization works. You've got to know how the systems work. So business intelligence are motor skills of a day-to-day of running a business.
Is that also just basically experience, knowledge of the industry or the area of work?
Yes, and it would be, you're absolutely spot on there. It's going to be very industry specific. So if you run a manufacturing company, cost cutting, or you run a professional business, then some ethics and policies that you've got to adhere to. So that's business intelligence. Now, the second one is very interesting. It's social intelligence. Now, social intelligence is also very important in running a business because it's about how you relate to another person, the other person. How do you build rapport? How do you build trust? How do you speak to another person? What are your communication modalities? See, that's social intelligence. And the third one, and this is one that I find most lacking in today's day and age with leadership, is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is about the consciousness, the awareness of our being. How aware are we with who we are, the impact that we're making to the people that we lead, families, in our families, who we are, our own form of handling challenges.
Right.
Yeah, so emotional intelligence is the awareness, is the consciousness of who we bring to the table. And that is high.
So based on these three elements, are leaders made? Are they just born? I mean, what happens when you say, born leader? What does that mean?
That's a really good one, Jessy. If I may, this again is an opinion, but I would say that leadership can be learned. Because when we were children, when we were young, and as new humans, babies, we had to learn everything. We had to learn to eat, we had to learn to sleep, we had to learn a lot of it. Even drinking a glass of water, we had to learn it.
Right.
Now, so if you say leadership, can it be learned? It's a skill. The challenge is leadership is such a big word. Leadership, what do I do with that? So what are the points in leadership? So what skills have I got to have? Master that. What skills have I got to have? Master that. Break it down and learn the skills. So when we say, natural born leadership, I believe that it's just saying, I can't be like him or I can't be like her.
Right.
That's just kind of saying it's not me. But I think leadership is for everyone, and it's not about just like people think that they've got to lead this big ship. I got to be leading this
leadership.
company.
So does leadership, has it changed over the last decade or so? Because now we see Generation Y and beyond coming into the workforce. They've really changed the way, how things have changed the status quo, so to say.
Absolutely.
So is that given a different shape and size and mold to leadership as we know it?
Jessy, that's a really, really good question, because if I may, this whole conversation with Generation Y, millennials, and all, it's a very popular topic. But if I may, in any company, there are just multiple generations. You've got the baby boomers, you've got the Gen Xers, you've got the millennials, and in this mix of people, everybody is motivated differently. They're all motivated by different backgrounds, different experiences, they came into life at different points of even our country. If you look at Malaysia, if I were a 55, 60-year-old, I experience this country differently from if I were a 20-year-old. And because of all those differences, and we're all inside the same workforce, leaders can't walk around and say, hey, this is how I lead the company. This is me, and my way or the highway.
Right.
We can no longer do that because of the sheer differences in the workforce. That means we have to understand. We have to make it a point to be flexible enough, be conscious enough on what they need. We can't go, look, 30 years ago, Jessy, probably that's possible. My way or the highway. Because maybe there were just less jobs than there are now. The supply of jobs now is crazy. We can't do that anymore. On top of the fact, we belong in a generation where there's so much information at our fingertips. This generation of employees have so much more information at their fingertips that they know what to look for in a good employer, in a good leader. And if we don't step up in that form of leadership, we'll just get washed out.
So how do you lead well? As you say, what makes a good leader, but what makes a new good age or modern leader, especially when leading Generation Y and beyond, millennials, Gen X, and so on?
One word: flexibility and consciousness. I think a good leader needs to understand that I can't go around with one tool. You see, and I use this analogy all the time. If we, have a hammer in our hand, everything looks like a nail. And I'll go, oh, okay, maybe I should hammer this, and maybe I should hammer this. And with the highest level of leadership is knowing that in my hand, I can't just have one tool. I've got to know I've got a hammer. Oh, this is when I use a screwdriver. Oh, this is where I use a drill. This is where I use a saw.
So what you're saying is a leader has to have a mix of discipline,
Yes.
compassion,
Compassion, yes.
vision,
Yes.
and a few of these elements.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And you brought up vision. And this is one of the things that I find in a lot of businesses. And just try this. But when you go in and you do an interview, you go and do a survey with the employees, more often than the time, a lot of employees are going to say they don't know where they're going. Direction and clarity. And if it's one thing, the newer generations today don't just want jobs. I just finished a conversation with somebody that's in that bracket of young generation, and she's going to me, I can get a salary from any company, but I want to work with a company that believes in sustainable energy.
Right.
And I'm just going, it's no longer about the paycheck. It's no longer about that. Maybe 30, 50 years ago, it could be about that. Oh, this is a good employer. They pay good salaries all the time, consistent.
Yeah.
But now, they're choosing their companies based on the vision, the purpose, the
Value.
the value, sustainable energy, making a difference, community, giving back. And these are the generations today.
So I'm sure you get a lot of requests like that. Maresa, help us. We have younger generations to work with, and we're not too sure what to do.
Okay.
So, but you say, look, they're just people. It's just that they have a different style, different approach to work. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about them, and how do you think leaders, especially older maybe older visionaries, can come to a compromise?
Come to a compromise. I like that. Compromise, it sounds like there's something to give here.
Well,
if I may, a lot of the newer generation they're not just motivated by money. I have to say that they're not just, the word is just, because a lot of people make this misunderstanding that they'll work for free. No. But in today's day and age, the newer generation do a lot of charity. Now, because they're not just motivated by money, you can't be saying, look, if you do this extra project, we're going to give you this increment, you're going to get this position, you're going to get this, newer generations are not motivated by just that. They're motivated by the purpose, the ability to make a difference, to make a change, the freedom, the autonomy, the serving the greater good beyond the company. It's bigger than the company. They want that opportunity to do that. And I'll say this, a lot of the generations, they come from different places.
Yeah.
You see, if I am in my 50s or in my 60s, when I was looking for a job back then, I was looking for stability. You know, I was looking for who's going to pay me a good paycheck every month. And those days, people can stay in a company for what's long, 10, 20 years?
Yep, easy.
Today, wow, so long. Why so long?
Yeah.
Literally, why so long? And that's the thing. This newer generation did not come from that place. They are coming from a place where they have that stability. They were born into a place where there were no longer fights and, you know, all this different challenges that we were having politically, economically, and socially in our country. They came into a place where there was a lot of peace and comfort and stability, I call it. So they are trying to realize different needs in the hierarchy, the hierarchy of needs.
Makes sense, yeah.
So they are coming on at this top, and we're still talking to them about this, and they're just going, no, this.
Yeah.
So it's just different conversations. That's why when leaders understand that you're really in control of what you say, the communication that goes out. You're in control of how you communicate. Are you communicating up here with these guys? Or are you communicating down here?
So does leadership mean leading from the front of the line or from the back of the line, so to say? Do you go down to ground level and communicate on a one-to-one basis? But then that begs the question, how do you lead your ship, when you have thousands of employees?
That's fantastic. You know, that boils down to leadership styles. If I may, there are two types. You know, you can lead from the front, where when you lead from the front, you're seeing the big picture, you're seeing the clarity, and this is the thing. Whether you lead from the front or you lead from the back, by being a hands-on kind of practical leader, you've got many types. But whatever it is, wherever you choose to position yourself, you must and always see clearer than anybody else in the company. Because the number one role for a leader is to plot clarity, is clarity of direction. And the minute that's not clear to you as the leader, it's not clear to the rest. And how a lot of organizations lose that. Sometimes the leaders are clear. Mid-management, 60%, right? And then at the bottom, they're just going, no clue.
Right.
So then there's a divide.
Yeah.
And where leadership values go all the way down to the ground, be it whether you're starting at the top or you're starting from the bottom, the message needs to be clear across all the layers. Where are we going?
Right. And does that message change as it comes down, as in the essence of the message is the same, but the way the message is presented to each of this segment, perhaps that is different, so that you can connect to them at the various different levels?
Absolutely. Probably, if I may, at the top, a lot of it is the why. You know, it's the why, it's the purpose, is the why are we doing this? What's happening in our landscape that means we have to stay relevant, so therefore we have to do this. So there's a lot of it is why. And then when you get to the bottom part of the hierarchy, the organization, you know, it gets into the what, the where, the when, the how. Yeah, it gets into more details. So if I may, the communications are all really, really important, but one very important distinction is strategy and tactic. So right at the top, when you talk strategy, it's answering the question why. Why is this relevant? Why are we doing this? You know, it's answering that question. But when I get down to the bottom, midline to the ground team, it's more a question of how do I achieve it? What do I do? What do I execute? Tactics are executable. Strategy is your why, your direction, and that clarity.
Leaders, when you say, oh, he's my boss, or she's a leader, she's the CEO, automatically there perhaps is some kind of resistance from employees. How do leaders battle this?
The resistance between that's the boss. Well, that will take me a couple of days to answer.
Right? Because you walk in there and like, okay, I'm hopeful to lead. And all of a sudden you find that, you know, whatever you're trying to share with your team perhaps just goes unheard, or you find it difficult yourself to drive this vehicle ahead.
The short answer to that, Jessy, that's really, really good. The short answer to that is what is the response that you're getting? You see, a lot of the time for leaders is a one-way thing. It's a, guys, this is where we're going. You guys got it? Clear? All right, let's go. And the leader just goes boom, 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 right to the, and then he or she turns around and goes, where's everybody? So that's a response, because nobody understands where they're going. They're not sure what steps to take, and you're on your own, and you've realized, okay, I've got this far, where's everybody else? So the key to that is response, because communication is the response that you get. If I take a ball and I throw it on a wall and it returns to me fast, it means I threw it fast. If I threw it slow, it returns slow. That's the thing about leadership. It's just knowing what response are you getting. And leadership intelligence is about reading the response. Hey, so when we build our strategies, when we build our clarity for where the company is going, the organization is going, are we checking in with our team? And how do we check in? Do we hear their side of the story? Do we hear their side of feedback? Because when you open up the floor and then your managers are going, well, boss, I think we tried that 2 years ago and it didn't quite work. And you go, oh, okay. So you're getting their feedback. Because if it's one way, they're going to go, yes, boss. But then they're going to go, but we tried that 2 years ago, and they're not going to tell that to you. They're not going to say that to you because you're the boss. You just told them what to do instead of include them in
that process.
In the process. That's right. So in leadership intelligence, one of the things we talk about is asking questions. And that's what every good coach knows how to do, is ask questions. Why? Because when the communication is one way, we never get to hear their side of what the story is. We never get to understand what the challenges are. And you see, as a leader, the higher and higher I get up there, I don't really know what's going on the ground anymore. I need to ask my team, like, what do you think? What's your feedback? Do you think this works? So asking questions is a very good skill of leadership, because it helps us to get the response. We know, even if we're headed in the wrong way, we get to hear from our team versus just tell them what to do.
Does it take more than one leader to lead? Can leadership be multiple?
In fact, in any great business, good to great, I love Jim Collins. Any good business, if you are the only leader, you are going to get exhausted. The more leaders you have, the easier it is for you to achieve what you want to achieve.
So it's also upon the leader, to begin empowering his or her other leaders in training.
That's right. And the thing about empowering more leaders is you got to be very careful. Are you empowering leaders right off the bat, or are you empowering managers that become leaders?
What about employees who say, well, boss doesn't understand, boss doesn't see my point, boss doesn't get us, or we don't agree with where this is going? I guess a lot of resistance also comes in from the bottom-up approach.
Absolutely. You see, when that happens from the bottom up, boss doesn't see it. We are just we're just gonna do what he says and what she says. You see, when you get that, that's a classic case of, do they understand the why, the relevance of this direction? And sometimes as a leader, we're going so fast in one direction that we're not stopping to say, everybody, do you get where we're going? And that's called an alignment. You see, aligning is the same as we hear about alignment, guys, from aligning a car, right? We align all our tires, and then we drive really fast on the highway, and not that fast, sorry, according to the speed limit, and the vehicle is still safe. And that's the thing with a business as well. Aligning means making sure all the parts know exactly what they need to do in their area of department, their own business, their own area, to support the overall goal. So if I'm in operations, what do I gotta do here so that I serve this? Okay, I'm in quality control. What do I do here? If I'm in marketing, what have I gotta do here to serve this? But are all the parts aligned?
Most of the time it isn't.
That's why you get that resistance, that little bit of like pushback. And the thing is, there's so much that actually there's a lot that we can do to reduce the pushback. A lot. First, the two-way conversations. Listen to the response that your team is making. And more often than not, leaders are not hearing all this. That's also why leadership intelligence is, what are you listening to?
Right.
If you really put a stethoscope and listen to the team, they're going to tell you a whole lot. And I get this question in my seminars a lot, Jessy. People ask me, oh, look, are we supposed to listen to everything our employees say? So just because they say that,
Right.
we got to listen to it. You know, sometimes as a leader, I know best. So I get this in my seminars a lot. The thing about listening is 50% of the battle. See, the thing about our team members, our employees, is that they don't say, look, you've got to listen, you've got to follow what we tell you. Employees are not saying that. Employees just want to be heard.
Yeah.
And 50% of it is just hearing them out, weighing it, considering it. Okay, well, look, I've heard all the options. Option C still makes sense. So thank you for option A. We're still going to go with option C. Well, okay, at least I was heard.
Yeah.
See, that's
I guess that's what you meant by trying to have less pushback as well. Are all bosses leaders, good leaders?
That's a good one. We differentiate between bosses and leaders because bosses are the my way or the highway. That's bosses.
Right.
So the term bosses are, and you know, we use the word like bossy.
What's the culture in Malaysia? Because it seems to me like it's shifting as well. But
Yes.
what has been the culture? And if we are not already there, how do we get to become better leaders? You and I and everyone. Because ultimately, you know, everyone wants to become an entrepreneur, business owner, or a leader of some kind. And it just doesn't have to be in a corporate setting.
Oh, no.
It could be in any setting.
Yes. Being a leader, everyone can lead. Everyone can lead. The thing is, they think that they've got to do it at the biggest format. I've got to run a company of 200 people, 1,000 people. Start by leading oneself. Leading oneself meaning, because leadership starts with your own ship, and a lot of people don't know their own ship really well. They don't know how they respond to problems. They don't know what sudden word breaks them down, triggers, and that's the concern that I have, is that there are a lot of leaders that are going out there trying to lead and manage everybody without even understanding themselves. So if I may, the culture in Malaysia, we do need more leaders. We need leaders that are aware.
Speaking about Malaysia
conscious.
and leaders, one leader comes to mind, of course, that's our Prime Minister, who is now leading for the second time in that sense. What do you think his leadership style is, very quickly, and how do you think he can, maybe be a better leader?
Well, personally for me, and I know I'm going on live television to say this, I think to need not do what he's doing in the second sitting as our Prime Minister. He need not. He could have just gone and done his 90s and retired and be absolutely happy. He did not need to do this, not at this time. So now that he's coming back and doing this, he's trying to right every wrong. His leadership was not perfect. The bit that I understood about him when he was leading, I've heard so many things, and I think he's coming back to try and right the wrong. He's looking at our country with a mirror in his face, and he knows the legacy that he's leaving behind, and that's the thing that I learned from Jack Welch, is that before you're a leader, you're growing yourself. But when you're a leader, it's about growing others. And he looked at the legacy that he was leaving behind. Our country really needs somebody. And the hardest part of it, when a 93-year-old needed to step up as the PM, the hardest part is, what, is there no younger model that can do this now?
Yeah.
I really, there's no other candidate.
Well, I guess
And-
we'll end with that note.
Wow.
The big question is who can be our next leader, right? Thank you so much, Maresa, for coming
Thank
in.
you.
I think it's been an amazing conversation we've had here on The Nation. This, of course, putting into perspective leadership and the context of a leadership intelligence and how we can all be better leaders. That's all the time we have on the show today. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Thank you.